Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Thank you to both King Faisal University and Imam Abdul Rahman bin Faisal University for arranging this and inviting me to participate in this event today. It's truly an honor. And thank you to all of you for joining me. And of course, my co-presenter, Dr. Fatin. It's always a pleasure to see you. All right, let's get started. I took a little bit of a different perspective on this, as I knew that my colleagues would, mashallah, give an excellent background on what are 21st century skills. So I'm taking it from a perspective of higher education to meet 21st century needs, building a contextual and developmental bridge, inshallah. Before I get started, or as I'm getting started, probably you need to know a little bit about me so that you know my perspective a little bit. So that you know how I'm going to present and the way I think a little bit. I come from that snowy Midwestern town there that you see on the left-hand side. That's what it looks like in February. And now I became an immigrant to that beautiful city on the right-hand side, Khobar, Saudi Arabia, nearly 20 years ago. And I've been in higher education in Saudi for about 12 years as both a faculty member and a faculty developer. So I may see things a little bit differently, perhaps just by way of my experiences as both a faculty member and faculty developer, and the bicultural aspect as well. I have a real vested interest in this subject as a mother of several children on the verge of entering higher education or currently in higher education and entering the workforce. So I'm very invested in the topic and hopeful for the future of the workforce as well. Just to give a very brief background here, just in addition to what Dr. Fatin has said and what the other panelists have said prior about what we're talking about today, and that is 21st century skills or competences. Now, I like the term competences a bit better because it's broader. Skills are more individual skill sets, whereas competences, for example, are broader, broader set of skills that you can do, that you can perform with autonomy, that are self-directed. 21st century skills has become a bit of a buzzword in higher education. So it's not important the wording or to get tired of the wording, but it's more about the actual construct and what it means and what we can do with that. So you can see there the basic definition for hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills meaning the in-depth, more vertical skills for your jobs, and the soft skills as the transferable skills, sometimes referred to as the general skills. I like the term transferable because it all depends on different situations, that you can use them at different times in different situations. And increasingly, there's something being called hybrid skills, which is the combination of the two. And increasingly, jobs are being more and more, having more and more requirements to have hybrid skills. So you no longer can just have hard skills, you must have both very strong hard and soft skills. So you can say hard skills get you the job, soft skills take you to the top, as they say. So if we look at the future of jobs here globally in 2020 from the World Economic Forum, you can see the top 10 skills expected in 2025. And you've seen some of these before. Dr. Fatin also just spoke about them: analytical thinking and innovation, active learning, complex problem solving, and quite a few there with technology. You'll notice with resilience, critical thinking, initiative, and ideation as well. Moving on to specifically Saudi Arabia, because it's important, as I said at the beginning, a contextual bridge within the Saudi context. Also from the World Economic Forum, you see the emerging skills there. Again, several with technology and leadership and complex problem solving, as other panelists have talked about. Just some background on the current workforce in Saudi Arabia at nearly 10 million, excluding the military and self-employed people, and an unemployment rate of 12.5 to 14.9%. So those are people that are looking for work and who can work, but cannot necessarily find work. Okay, so that's a little bit of background in there. So would you say, is the future bright? According to the research launched by the MISC Foundation here in Saudi in 2020, 85% of future jobs are unknown to us today. Now, some people could take that as a glass half empty. I choose to take that in a positive way as a glass half full, and increasingly full. It's an exciting time, and it's not new in history, is it? I mean, think back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, what majors were available around the world, and how have majors changed? How have colleges changed, and in what they have offered? How have your own skills changed depending on our age today? So what I'm really talking about today is building a bridge into the needs of the 21st century market. We, all of us listening today, are products of the 20th century, after all. Even those in college now have been taught in many ways under a 20th century system. They're digital natives, for sure, but still taught in many ways in a 20th century system. So it's something, a bridge that we need to build together, inshallah, and inshallah be positive about. So, what I'm talking about today is food for thought. As I said in the beginning, from my perspective and experiences, and I'm sure many of you will have much to offer in this, inshallah, afterward when we open it up for questions. And that is, what are the most important, wide ranging skills or competences and the possible academic development implications that we're talking about today. So, I'm talking about, I believe that a bridge to the labor market through well-developed transferable skills and competences within the Saudi context rest on these 5 competences. The 21st century Saudi professional practices citizenship in mind and actions, carries global ideas and local values, has an empowered growth mindset and grit, collaborates and communicates with empathy and patience, believes in and practices inclusion and equity. So, this is what I'm going to be talking about. And I believe all of those skill sets that we've talked about, all of those different skills can be tucked under these 5 competencies, inshallah. Okay, so the first one I'm talking about is practicing citizenship in mind and action. Something that we talk about to our students, something that may be a graduate attribute at many universities, but something that we really need to encourage, actually do in our thoughts and actions, and how students know about their citizenship in relation to the workforce in their lives. In other words, what is Saudi Arabia's place in the region and the world and their part in that future? So our students know what are the pillars of Vision 2030. They know about the presidency of Saudi Arabia to the G20. So practicing that, going from that global self here to the individual self. What is their role and responsibility to other elements in the circle of citizenship? From the child who picks up the garbage, who grows to take care of and show respect to his or her family members, to the student who stays late to get a project done with their peers, to work together for the common good of a project, who goes on and so forth to contribute to the community and the country. So it has to do with personal leadership and work ethics, responsibility to self and others. So this is the kind of competence that helps us anticipate expectations of our work, adapt to it, and follows through. The colleague who comes in on time, who works the extra hours, and knows how you can serve and contribute, and know the importance of their role as a citizen. So to me, this is a very important competence, and this is what we see in the literature as well. So practicing citizenship in mind and actions. So what are the academic development implications at the macro level? First of all, the professionalization of teaching and learning in higher education, which we are seeing with increasing fellowships and frameworks around the world. So of standards and skills and competences for faculty members with increasingly professional teaching and learning qualifications. So for us in academic development, and for those of you who work in academic development, in a way, all of us who are faculty members indeed work in academic development. So having to do with training, development, enrichment. The idea is you go from a trainer to a facilitator, to a change agent. So when we are a change agent in education, we facilitate impact and are agents of change. I would say 20th century, we're somewhere here. We hope to move in this direction. Also, awareness for faculty awareness also of an emphasis on Saudi initiatives and global roles, and more collaboration such as we see here today, locally and nationally on academic development initiatives as well. And that also means increased research and knowledge sharing, contributing to the scholarship of teaching and learning. This is how we know about how we teach these 21st century skills and how to increase academic development. There are a few research out there, but very limited. So inshallah, more of that in the future. The second competency carries global ideas and local values, learns the best and leaves the rest. So with increasing globalization, our students, our young professionals can get confused of where exactly they fit in that. So looking outward, but knowing their identity and the context, having diverse knowledge with extended knowledge in their specialization, but knows who they are and has pride in that. Okay, so doing what is in the best interest of the local market here in Saudi Arabia. So what are some academic development implications in this case? The idea here is to benchmark best practices, which we do, seeking international quality, but increasingly recruiting and scouting national academic development talent. In other words, nobody knows the context better than the people within the current context. So we look outward to gain the best practices, but at the same time, keep in mind who we are and what is needed in this context. How many times have you been to a professional development event where the speaker or the presenter did not know the context? So that's what I'm referring to there. And creating communities of practice within academic specializations aligned with the best in the Saudi market, experts on how to teach 21st century skills. So based on what's actually happening in the labor market. So that link between your specialization and the labor market. After all, we're no longer teaching only core subjects and assessing them. There's a whole lot more going on in that 21st century curriculum, and specialization and academic development and specialization is key. Third, that this young professional has an empowered growth mindset and grit, two of our favorite concepts. And you can think of so many of those 21st century skills that comes under this competence. So this idea of a fixed mindset that we just don't want to have in the 21st century, where everything is static, where they avoid challenges, give up easily, and think that failure just means that's it. Whereas a growth mindset can go forward and do just about anything. Intelligence and aptitude can be developed. That's the growth mindset, embraces challenges and knows that failure is part of the process, and they keep moving forward. This goes along with grit, Angela Duckworth's concept of grit. This idea, again, of growth mindset, resilience, initiative, which Dr. Fatin talked about, and tenacity, persistence. So people who don't give up and they keep moving forward. Now, the academic implications for this one, I'm focusing specifically on faculty members. After all, we are the ones educating that next generation, right? So the idea of constant lifelong learning for upskilling, adding additional skills that we need, and reskilling, replacing our outdated skills. Beneficial CPD with depth and clear assessment, tailor-made and unique ways of continuous professional development, perhaps virtually, perhaps short courses, long courses. This will improve retention and satisfaction, and of course, overall job performance for our faculty members. Number 4, collaborate and communicate with empathy and patience. Now, you may say, of course, this is in every 21st century skill discussion or presentation, but collaboration and communication in the truest sense of the word, so that they have communication competent situationally. They know in what situation to use certain varieties of language, certain aspects. They know how to use communication in different ways. Empathetic communication and patience to achieve, knowing that when they enter the workforce, to listen more than speak, that they have something to learn, to collaborate with the team goal in mind, not only the individual, but shared vision. And the negative impact of pedagogical, what we call pedagogical isolation, which can be work isolation. So our students say, I get my grade and you get your grade. But we know in the workforce, that's not the case. We all work on projects and teams and tasks together. So to be a good colleague and not throw our colleague under the bus, as you can see there in that picture, to be a positive colleague. Academic development implications here are awareness of communication literacy and means of collaboration. Collaboration, explicit instruction on communication, as Dr. Fatin said, and systematic integration of skills. Okay, the idea is, as you can see here, that most of the time these skills are integrated in the curriculum. They are not standalone courses. So they are consistently integrated. Finally, if you allow me, Mrs. Rania, the last one, that they believe in and practices inclusion and equity. So equality or sameness is different than equity, which is related to fairness and justice. So in this context here, we talk a lot about inclusion. So inclusive cooperation, not competition. So you can see that that's the current breakdown of the Saudi workforce, I mean the workforce in Saudi Arabia, including everyone, Saudis and non-Saudis. So it's 85%, 15%, and people with disabilities at 1.4. So the idea is constant inclusion in these 21st century skills. The implication here is the awareness of inclusion and equity concepts in higher education, using multiple strategies for diversity and assessment as well. And of course, culturally relevant pedagogy. I wish we had more time. The idea is the picture there on the right does not represent this context. The picture at the top does culturally relevant pedagogy in keeping in context with our students as well. Okay, so the time has gone by so quickly. So what does the future hold for higher education to meet 21st century needs? Well-equipped faculty members with clear competences, inshallah, for teaching and learning in the 21st century, who are able to see the forest through the trees, that the big picture is getting our students, our sons and daughters, sisters and brothers into the labor market of tomorrow. Understanding that the workforce of tomorrow is dynamic. The skills we talk of now will change for our students throughout their careers. But if they are equipped with these strong competencies, as you can see there on the screen, there is there's then the bridge to the future, in my opinion, will be positive, inshallah, and well-traveled. Thank you so much for attending this session. I'm sorry I went a bit over time, and I appreciate everyone attending.